Now we're going to talk about using a difference mat as a substitute for rotoscoping. Difference matting is basically using a clean plate to tell After Effects what to key out. So in this example here we've got a clean plate, and what happens is some goons with some machine guns get up over the hill and run down. So what we need to tell After Effects is use this clean plate as a reference. Just take a photo here. And when you get to a shot like this, the only difference between the two shots, which I'll just show you here, as you can see, the only difference is the henchman and some rogue leaves that are blowing in the wind. But that should hopefully be enough to tell After Effects that, hey, this is what I want to keep, and just discard everything else. So to do that, we have to make two layers, and the second layer has to have a freeze frame where the whole plate is clean. So as you can see, we can't see the henchman. This is a good time to freeze frame. So we'll come up here and type in difference mat. So what you first have to do is set the difference layer. We don't want it to be differencing nothing. We want it to be differencing the clean time remapped image. So as you can see, the only thing different between those two were the henchmen and some moving leaves. Now it's kind of eaten away at our henchmen, so we'll need to turn the matching tolerance down. Okay, so what we need to do now is we can't go much lower or else we'll generate all of this, but we can't go too much higher or else it'll start eating away at our henchmen. So what you do is you add a matte choker, and this is a pretty default setting, except what I've done is I've gotten the choke, and which is normally default to here, and I've gone into the negative. See how we've got a hole here? We need to go into the negative to fill that hole. Okay? So once all the holes are filled, then we add a second choker, and what this choker does is it chokes further back even more. So if we use a choke of negative 127 and a choke of -7 on top of that, that's like 134. I'm so bad at maths. That's negative 134. So we'll make sure that we've filled every hole. Remember, you can't use exact values as me. Every shot will be different, which is unfortunate. I've been tweaking these values for like half an hour. That's why I didn't want to have to try and remake them. And then what we notice here is we've got lots of grass that we want to get rid of. So what we do, well, what I said to myself is, look, the grass is green. This could just be a giant green screen. So I've used a color key of that color, which is somewhere around here, and 17. We'll see what that does. That gets rid of quite a bit of the grass. And I've used another one, tolerance of 17, with just a slightly different color. And then I've used a third matte choker, which I'll turn on now just to show you what it's doing. And this one is a really soft choke, like geometric softness 15 is a lot. And as you can see, that you can just see that it's really cleaning up the edges. I mean, this might not look so good, but when you turn on the layer below, it looks okay. And the thing is, we don't actually see these henchmen really until they get up to here, because there's so many ranks of them. These guys will actually be covered by other henchmen in the final shot. So what we're trying to do is make it look good when they're here, right at the front. And because there's a lot more pixels between when they're here and when they're back here, it does look a lot cleaner, and that's what we want. But as you may notice, we have to obviously clean up all this junk here, and to do that we'll just be using a simple mask, and which we'll draw with the rectangular mask tool, and you want to keep this mask tight. So draw it around here, go to the mask settings, mask path, and what I do is I just draw, or I make changes to the mask every few seconds. I don't worry about changing it every second. And as you'll see, like when you move the mask, it has these odd artifacts, but they're not actually there. Just After Effects having nightmares. So So we'll just keep drawing this. And as you can see, I'm using a green mask because I like green. Now, one of the henchmen decided to run off the screen, but that's okay. And the only thing we're really getting rid of is, we're trying to get rid of these things, because in some shots, those artifacts here will be so close that you'll have to paint them out in Photoshop, which I'll show you how to do in a moment. But this one's pretty good. And the quality of the shot is really dependent on how close this shot here is to the shot behind it. So the light in this shot, in the 25 seconds that this shot was taken, didn't really change much, and there aren't very harsh shadows, so this made for a good difference matte. If we had have had the light change, or a car drive by, or just some guy walking his dog, then it wouldn't work. And also, the higher resolution the camera, the much better the result will be. So this was high definition, and as you can see, it looks okay. But if we had a red Epic camera and we were on 28,000 by 9,000, I mean, you know, how clean do you think this difference matte would have been? And yeah, that was wishful thinking. So what I'd like to do between, see, I've only made like 5 mask paths. Between the mask paths, I'd just like to check it up. So between keyframes, I'll have a look, I'll go in and I'll see that that's wrong. Have to change that. Cutting off Ashley's head. Going between the next one. That looks okay. This looks okay. Okay, that all looks good. So now we can render that off. What I'd like to do is go composition, add to render queue, and what we're going to do is we're going to clean it up in Photoshop frame by frame. Now, not every shot you'll need to do this in, but only the ones where, you know, it needs cleaning up. So this particular shot probably doesn't need to, but I'm just going to show you how to, just in case you need to clean it up. So save it as a PNG sequence with the RGB and the alpha channel included. Hit OK and save it as an image sequence wherever. Okay, in Photoshop, hit File, Open, and we're going to go to our images. Hit on press the first one, and then hit Image Sequence. As you can see, there's a lot of photos, and this is very important. Mine was filmed on 7D, so 24. That's the standard, 24 or 25, whatever. Now, if this didn't come up, you have to go Window, Animation Timeline, wherever it is, Animation. Mine's already here. Now, it's kind of like After Effects, it's Timeline, and in After Effects, you would come to somewhere like here and press the comma and full stop keys to go next frame, previous frame, but down here, it's got the buttons. And we're going to be painting out frame by frame, so we really need to set up some shortcuts. So go Edit, Menu, Keyboard Shortcuts, sorry, and go down to the Animation Timeline, not the frames, Animation Timeline, and what I've done is set myself some keyframes. So the previous frame will be Control A, the next frame will be Control S, and they will be my comma and full stops. Now it's kind of silly taking away the Control Save, because you know it's the same keyframe for save, but this is only temporary. You could use Control Z and Control X, but I thought this would be more appropriate, just whatever's close to the control key, because you can't just set A and S, you have to set a control. So that's why I hit Control A and S, because they're close to the keyboard. Sorry, close to the control button. Once you've done that, accept OK. And what we'll be doing is Control plus to zoom in. We'll just scrub through here. Looks pretty clean, but as you'll see, we've got things like this. And to make it more clearer, go Window, Layers, hit Control Shift N, grab a new layer, drag it below, hit Control Backspace. And that creates white, so we can see that that's a problem. And we've got to stop the problem. We've got to stop the problem right now. Fenster, eraser tool. Okay, so what we do is we erase it. And as you'll see, hair causes a lot of problems with different mats and the chokers. So you might want to decrease the hardness and zoom in here and rub out some of his hair. And what this does is it'll rub it out on one frame. We go the frame before, we've got to rub it out again. Okay? And the frame before, and we just got to keep going. And this may sound tedious, but this doesn't hold a candle to how tedious rotoscoping. Like this is therapy in comparison to rotoscoping. In rotoscoping you have to concentrate. This one I feel like I'm painting. I'm having a good time. So I'm just going to go through in fast motion and show you guys about a few minutes of what this involves. Once you finish that, you have a nice clean mask. Delete the layer 2. You were helpful, but we don't need you anymore. Go File, Export, Render to Video. And we're using a PNG sequence. Save it wherever with whatever name. And make sure the alpha channel is set to straight unmatted. I'm pretty sure by default it's set to none. We wanted that. Okay. Hit print. I'll see you on the other side. Okay, so when you're importing them, just make sure you go Edit, Preferences, Import. And make sure the sequence footage is set to whatever you're working with. So again, I'm working with 24, so that's all good. So I've got my image sequence here. It's called rank 1, and as you'll see, I've got other ranks here because I filmed, let's see what rank 2 is. Rank 2 is the guy behind them. And as you can see, 2 of them are just AVIs and 2 of them are PNG sequences. And that's because I didn't have to clean up ranks 2 and 3 in Photoshop. The only ranks that I needed to clean up were rank 1 and 4, and because I had to send them to Photoshop to do the cleaning up, that's why they're in PNG format. So now you'll see that this composition is like 25 seconds long. Now it's obviously too long for our shot, so I'll just solo rank 1 for 1 sec. I don't want a 25-second long shot that'll bore the audience to death. I'm going to set it to about 7. So I look at the composition and it ends at 24:03. So I'm going to start the shot at 17:03, and that'll give me a 7-second shot. Now what I'm going to do is go to the very end here and press the end bracket so that this composition ends when this footage runs out, and that's what I want. So at the start of the footage, they're about here. Now what I'm going to do is turn on rank 2. Okay, and as you can see, they look a little too close. So what I'm going to do is send them back a bit. And what you might want to do with rank 2, or any of yours, of course yours aren't the same as mine, go contrast. Brightness and contrast, because the lighting changed between these two shots. And as you can see, the grass is too dark. So we'll just trial and error, and whenever you turn the brightness up, you have to turn the contrast up or else it looks retarded. So it's getting there, still a little dark. That looks good. That's obviously not the same shade as the grass below it, but it kind of looks like it's an overcast day and it's a fine shadow, and that's what we want. So when we turn rank 1 back on, you have to decide how far away you want your ranks apart. Do you want rank 2 breathing down rank 1's neck like this, or do you want them to be like off in the distance? So that's probably where I want them to be. And now what you do is you duplicate rank 1 again, send it below all of them, and you send rank 1 even further back. So rank 1 is repeating behind rank 2. So we're kind of cheating here because, rank 2 has their set costume and rank 1 has their set costume. And if you're duplicating rank 1, then there's dudes with the same costumes on. But that's okay, because when you turn them all on, it just looks like people in the background. And you can go crazy here by like just keep adding ranks if you want. I mean, you've done the hard work. You might want to make a lot of people in this scene. I mean, once you've done the difference map, you can add pretty much unlimited people. So this is what it's looking like at the start of the comp, and by the end of the composition it'll look like this if we turn rank 1 back on. As you can see, there's still people coming over the hill, which is good. We might want to add some more people. So this is why we needed to keep the scene 25 seconds, even if the actual shot will only be 7 seconds, because we need to time the ranks. Okay, so that looks pretty good. Now I'm just going to add the ranks that I did earlier, and they are ranks 3 and 4, and because this is uncompressed AVI and PNG, it renders quite quickly, but still, if we've got a lot of those, we might want to turn them off. Rank 3, you can start here, and at the end of the composition, line him up. That's where they are. You might want to use the brightness contrast thing. I've already showed you how to do that, I won't worry. So we've got rank 3 there and rank 4 there. So we have to time rank 3 and 4 now. As you can see, even though it looks fine there, rank 4 being right behind rank 3, it doesn't work here because you know, like rank 3 gets up a bit too quick, so they're kind of like on top of each other. So we send rank 4 back a little bit, okay? And yes, he does have a crossbow, and he has bananas, and he has nothing. So it's going to repeat the same process as we did before. Rank 3, you can go to the bottom, and then we'll get some more dudes in the background. Rank 4, you can go back. And this has got to be the funnest part, just seeing it all come together. I mean, you spent so long trying to refine the difference maths, and this is just a little piece of heaven. By the end of the shot, this is what we get. We've got lots of different people in the background, and you know, even though there's double ups, it kind of, I mean, yeah, if you're wearing a bright orange jacket, then you're gonna be noticeable, but the other guys look pretty generic. And once you turn everyone on, you know, that's a lot of people. And I've just got one more piece of footage, and I'll just drag that in here. I'll call it rank 5. And this one required no difference matting, because I've done all the matting on these frames here, all these layers. So what I can do is just drag this to the back here, and as you'll see, it's not looking real good when I just put it in here. What you want to do is, these guys are just like there for show, so I'm just going to, at the very end of the frame, I don't want them to be so close to our real rank, so I'm going to send them back even further. And that's just going to add some extra people. I mean, they've all got unique costumes. I didn't have to difference mat this. You know, that's pretty quick and easy. Now, as you can see, most of them are darker than the actual layer. So, and that's because when we added rank 5, it wasn't pre-matted, so it's solid. So we've replaced our background with rank 5. So add a brightness and contrast to rank 5. Set it to maybe -25. That looks pretty good. And you know how I said if you change one, you've got to change the other? You don't have to when you go into the negatives, because otherwise, you know, it looks more realistic going -25, but I'm really not a fan of uncontrasted images, and it looks pretty overcast. So I'll go -10. Now I'm just going to add one more element, and this is going to be using the basic masking technique. So what we've got here in this shot is these guys, they're just, the whole shot is they start here and they march down to about here. Well, they actually march all the way to the end, and that's all it is. And what we want to do is we want to draw a mask around, we want to find out where they start, just about here. We want to draw a tight mask around them. So get the mask tool, and you can go extra high and low. Just we want to keep it tight widthways because we want to fit in as many of these guys as possible. So we'll set the mask path here, go to the start where there's nothing, and can move that over there. And just checking that it doesn't cut off the guy with the gun. And we want to just set keyframes every few seconds so that it doesn't, we're not keyframing every frame, we're just doing rough ones and letting the keyframe do the work. And we want to keep it tight, remember that. I think there's 5 people in this rank, so once the 5th person comes out, then we'll seal off the mask behind him. Yeah, I'm not sure, I think that's the last guy there. Yep, that's 5. So we'll seal off the mask behind him. Make sure you have plenty of room on the top and bottom. And just checking between frames that looks good. Yep, that's good. Okay, now we shall continue. And we want to draw this mask all the way until they reach the end. So this isn't really simple masking, drawing one mask and forgetting about it, but it's not rotoscoping. Well, it kind of is, but it's extremely basic. It's like a hybrid of the two. So it doesn't take too long, and this is just going to add some extra dudes in the background. You won't really see them, but every extra soldier that's there just adds a little bit to the overall finished piece. Nearly there. You could select the layer and then select the mask, and that gives you control of the whole mask, so you don't have to drag individual corners. That's probably quicker. But again, if they separate, you'll have to extend it. Now we're not going to actually use them walking off to the very edge, but I'm just going to mask it just to prove a point. Once you get to the very end, you'll just go back and preview in between frames, so make sure everything's okay. That's okay. That kind of cut off a bit of the front runner, so we'll extend the mask here. Hitting K and J to go between previous and next frame. That looks good. Looks good. Nope, he got cut off there, so we'll go to this frame and extend that a bit. He got cut off completely there. Okay, that looks good. And what you might want to do is feather that out 20 or 30, just to give it some softness. And we're going to find out where this is where it starts. This is where the mask starts. We need to find out where it ends, or where it leaves that start point, which is about here. 7 seconds and 2 frames. So once we know that, we're going to duplicate it, and we're going to start this one at 7 seconds, 2 frames. Okay, then we're going to duplicate it again and go to 14 seconds, 4 frames, which is again another 7 seconds, 2 frames. Then we're going to duplicate it again, go forward to 2106, and I'm using the I don't know what that is. It's like a squiggly bracket, begin bracket that makes it start wherever whatever that thing is called. So we'll duplicate it again, 2808, start you. Okay, so now we've got a long line of marching people. Now if you go back into the into the other composition that we were working in, wherever that was. Sorry about my messiness. I think it was called main plate. We'll realize that rank 5 is a solid, so we're not going to be able to you know, we don't have the alpha behind them, so we can't have these dudes marching behind plate 5. So I want this composition to end about here, so that by the time these dudes get here, they're not walking behind rank 5. Rank 5 ends just in front of that tree. Okay, so we'll start the composition here. So end means end, we'll end it there. And that's 24:19. And we'll just go to 17:19, which means 7 seconds. And that's where our composition is going to start. And they're just going to march on over there. And we can trim comp to work area if we want. And what you can do is you can just copy these into the main plate and make sure they're at the bottom but on top of rank 5. But as you'll see, they're not, well, you can move them over here, but the problem if you don't pre-render it is that it takes much longer to preview in here. If you pre-render it, the After Effects is going to have a much easier time reading uncompressed AVI than uncompressed MOVs with feathers and masks. So we'll save this, add it to the render queue, just delete this previous entry. And again, lossless with the RGB and the alpha, and save it wherever. And this is just it rendering. We can, when it renders, it's a good chance to watch it in slow motion. So just to make sure that ranks don't overlap each other or anything goes wrong. And it gives you something to do in the 1 minute that it's going to take. Okay, so once you've exported that, import it again and place it on top of the rank 5, and then at the very end we wanted to line it up, and as you can see it looks good, but it's looking a little bright. We'll just do the brightness and contrast again. -20. Oh, that looks a bit dark actually. Each shot is different light because this was shot in the afternoon, so you know. Okay, and once we turn on every other layer, we have our finished shot, and there is a lot of henchmen in here. As you can see, they're not too noticeable, but it just adds some depth to the shot, having dudes in the background marching down. So that's about it for difference matting. It's a really great technique. I would much prefer it to rotoscoping in student films and just amateur short films. When you combine it with simple masking, you can create some pretty awesome results, and it doesn't take too long.